I felt the pen dig into my palm the way a thorn sneaks under skin. Sharp, sneaky, sudden. My own signature stared back at me, neat as Sunday gloves, on a page I didn't remember touching. Across the Juneteenth bustle of the community center, the clatter of folding chairs, kids practicing hand claps, raffle bell dinging, my daughter leaned in and whispered soft as choir satin sliding off a hanger, "Mama, you taught me to write your name beautiful." Peppermint and something mean rode her breath. She closed the blue folder like a hymn book and flashed that smile our neighbors love when they don't know better. If you're hearing my story, please subscribe so more voices like mine can be heard. My name is Ruth Ann Carter, 50 years old, Durham, North Carolina, red clay, roses, and sweet tea running in my veins. I'm Jaden's grandma, 8 years of long legs and careful eyes. Most mornings, I clip spent blooms, hum Clark Sisters while my cornbread rises, and keep coffee hot in case Pastor drops by. Evenings, I tutor neighborhood kids at my kitchen table, fractions, footnotes, how to breathe before a test. I can stitch a hem straight when the bobbin misbehaves, and I keep the deed to my little brick house in a fireproof tin box under the bed, tucked beside my prayer journal and my mama's quilt squares. That night, I signed where Tasha said sign because green beans were boiling and Miss Eloise's pecan pie needed counter space. I told myself it was the volunteer sheet, plates, ice, chairs. But the whisper burrowed in, "You taught me to write your name beautiful." By dawn, the house had that blue hush before birds fuss. I sat on the back steps in my robe with diner strong coffee and tried to shake the feeling there was a stone in my shoe. Tasha breezed in these days like a visiting celebrity. Bone-straight hair, cherry gloss, phone flashing. "Big things," she'd say, and kiss my cheek on the run, dropping off takeout and laundry and a little whirlwind. The thing about loving hard is you can crash hard, too. I opened the tin box for comfort. The deed, the faint notary stamp, the curve of my name I know better than my own face. Safe. I traced it and breathed easier. Noon brought Tasha with Jaden and a smile too bright. "I could drop this at the wash and fold," she said, already halfway down the hall. "But nobody folds like you. Also, can I grab those tax envelopes?" I heard a drawer slide, a soft click I'd never heard from my desk. "Mama, you got pens in here so smooth the ink sings," she called. "Leave my desk be," I said, gentle. She shrugged, stole a corner of cornbread like she was 7 again, and asked Jaden what he wanted for Sunday dinner. "Grandma," he said later, puffing his chest the way 8-year-olds do when they carry grown folk news, "Ms. Linda at the bank says she misses you. You used to go in and say hi and change your coins, but Mommy does it on the phone now. She said that's fancy." "I like to see the face that holds my money," I told him, and something tugged at a loose thread in my mind. After they left, the kitchen looked like a table set for 2 that forgot who was coming. A text pinged from the utility company asking me to confirm paperless billing. I hadn't signed up. An email from my insurance. Click to confirm new beneficiary. My name was spelled right. My stomach spelled wrong. I clicked nothing. Instead, I opened the little spiral notebook I keep in my apron pocket and wrote, "Things that don't sit right," with the date and a blank line for how it ended, because I like to tie bows on my worries. Next day, Ms. Linda did more than hand me a lollipop and call me sugar. She came around the counter, took my hands like she was pressing sight back into me, and said in that voice that carries sweet tea and warning, "We got a transfer request for your savings. Real big. It didn't smell like you. I stalled it and called your number. A man picked up. Said he was your representative. I know your people, Ruth. Don't make faces. Folks get pressured. You look at me. We're going to fix this. But first, tell me you didn't sign nothing when your hands were shaking." Peppermint and mean floated through my head. "You taught me to write your name beautiful." "Show me," I said, my mother's iron and velvet voice coming through my mouth. The page looked gray-white. My name too smooth, like it had been taught to behave. The tail of the H kissed the line wrong. Cold climbed my arms and sat in my elbows. "This ain't mine," I said. "And if it is, somebody made it mine with a trick." "Slow, sugar," Ms. Linda said. "Slow keeps a house standing. I'm putting a hold. You go home, pull your papers, and breathe." I reached for my phone to call Tasha, put it down, called Pastor Williams instead. "Dignity," Pastor told me at my kitchen table, hat on his knee. "That ain't letting folks run you over. That's telling the truth out loud even when it shakes." He sipped my too-strong coffee and smacked his lips like it was peach cobbler. "You ain't gotta ruin your child to save your house. We can walk and chew gum." He gave me the number of a lawyer. Mr. Benton, slow drawl that hid steel. "Don't raise your voice, raise your records," Benton said, and I started stacking evidence like plates after Sunday dinner. Shoebox statements, old stamps, neat bundles. That night, Tasha came in glossy and breathless. "It's been a day and a half," she said. "Don't start." She saw my paper stacks and grinned tight. "You finally going paperless? See, this is why you need me." "Did I sign anything at the center?" I asked, keeping my voice flat as a countertop. "Mama, volunteer stuff, chairs and ice, why?" Ms. Linda said a transfer was requested. "A transfer? From who?" Her face didn't move. She's always been good at stillness, the steady dancers do before a leap. "Maybe Daddy," she tried. "He said he'd help with Jaden's camp." "Don't bring that man in with a lie," I said. "He can't transfer what he never deposited." Fear flashed behind her eyes like lightning. Then the gloss slid back. "You need rest," she said. "Jaden, get your bag. Grandma's being dramatic." When she hugged me, Jaden pressed his cheek to my ribs and whispered in the small voice kids use when they don't know how big truth is. "Mom used your red pen, Grandma, the one you don't let me touch. It writes so pretty." Tasha froze, one eyelash blink, then TV host smile. "Boy, you talk too much." They were gone in a cloud of coconut perfume. I underlined suspicious twice. Days took on a rhythm. Tutoring in the afternoon, paperwork at night, quick prayers between phone calls. I bought a small locking file cabinet and slid it under my desk like a secret. Changed my bank password, wrote it backward in the notebook, tore the page out, taped it inside a cookbook only I touch. Moved the tin box to the top shelf behind the winter blankets. My house became a puzzle and I intended to win. Bright heat brought a white sedan idling at my curb. A man in a tie too tight for his neck asked, "Ms. Ruth Ann Carter?" He handed me a notice of intent to proceed with sale, stamped by a slick realty group. My address listed as vacant property. Vacant, like my life in it was a rumor. "Sir," I said, church rising in my shoulders, "you don't want to meet the worst version of my neighbor Eloise. Move along." He stammered about a wrong file and backed away like he heard dogs he couldn't see. I called Pastor, who called Benton, who called a clerk who said words like temporary restraint and cloud on title. I copied until my printer groaned. Jaden practiced spelling at my coffee table and asked, "Grandma, are we moving? Mom said you were retiring from this house." "No, baby," I said, smoothing the little curls the barber leaves because I asked him to. "Not unless I say so. Your grandma ain't retiring from her roses." He let out a week-long breath and wrote "neighbor wrong" on purpose to make me laugh. At midnight came the long white envelope from Home Equity Solutions Group. A burglar in a suit. My consent to serve as collateral for bridge financing on condos that didn't exist. The collateral, my house. The bridge, burning. That same week, a truth landed in my pocket like a firefly. A sticky note from Jaden. 2 blocky words. Red folder. "What folder?" I asked, crouching. "Under Mom's bed," he whispered. "She said she's borrowing your fancy signature and will give it back." I hugged him until he squeaked. "You," I told him, "are a lantern." I wrote, "red folder" under. Bed in my notebook, circled it, underlined it twice, then added, Do not go alone. The evening before our emergency hearing, the cicadas sawed the sky bruised pink and my doorbell rang. Not Tasha. A woman in a sheriff's deputy uniform stood tall on my porch, hat tucked under her arm. Ms. Carter, Deputy Carla James. Your address flagged on a time-sensitive notice. I like to give folks a heads up when I can. I poured her coffee and gave her the pieces that were facts. She listened like a sister. Bring your neighbor if she saw anything, she said, and bring your grandson if there's something simple he can say without putting him in the middle. Judges are people. People listen when a child says something true. Not my baby, I said too fast. I won't make him choose. You're not, she answered softly. You're making sure the whole truth is in the room. I did not sleep. Fear tried every lock. Around 2, a figure skimmed along the side of my house. Small, fast, familiar. The back knob turned twice, like a heart. Tasha, I said into the dark. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Come inside. She slipped into the kitchen, coconut lotion like memory around her. You awake? She whispered. I am, always am. I need a few papers, she said. Thought you'd be asleep. You thought wrong. Mama, please, I can fix it, if you let me fix it my way. What way is that? The one that leaves me jumping when the bell rings. My hands shook. The truth of it, the fear I'd been pushing down with coffee and pages. Get what you came for, I said, but in the morning I will speak your name in rooms with microphones. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway where the tin box used to be. When she saw it was gone, something hard set in her face. You think you so smart, she hissed, 13 again. You think you can outplay people who've done this a long time. I do, I said calmly, setting sugar in tea, because I have something they don't. What's that? Neighbors, I said, and a grandson who tells the truth. She turned and left, my door standing open to the night. Honeysuckle slipped in, soft and almost cruel. I slid the deadbolt, wrote in my notebook, Tasha here 2:27 a.m. Angry. Court tomorrow. Ask Benton about HESG letter. Bring sticky note. And sat on the porch, listening for the exact second night becomes morning. The courthouse was colder than a refrigerator. Everything echoed. Heels, coughs, whispered regrets. Mr. Benton's tie had tiny anchors. He stood like one. We'll get the restraining order. Forensic review of signatures. Judges don't like funny business with folks' houses. I ain't old, I grumbled. Exactly, he said. 2 slick men stood on the other side. Cufflinks, apology voices. Counsel for Home Equity. Solutions Group. Benton slid the HESG letter, Ms. Linda's note about the hold, copies from my notebook. He showed the judge my real signature from last year's refinance, crooked when I was tired, and the new one, smooth and elegant like it had practiced in a mirror. He let silence talk. Ms. Carter, the judge asked over her glasses, did you authorize your daughter or anyone to act for you? No, ma'am, I said. And if I did, I don't remember, because I was tricked. I may forget salt sometimes, but I don't forget when I'm tricked. A cough behind me sounded like a smothered laugh. The judge's mouth softened. Temporary restraining order granted. No sale, no lien. Also, someone explain how a house is vacant when I can see the owner breathing in my courtroom. Dates were set for a deeper hearing. Outside, the heat felt like a blessing. Pastor clapped my back. Walking and chewing gum, he said. We split pecan pie at the diner. I called Ms. Linda. She promised to keep both eyes open. At home, collards simmered slow, and I let their sound talk me down from the ledge. At 7, Tasha called, voice shaking. I saw the order. You didn't have to do me like that in court. You weren't there, I said. I know, don't start. Listen, there are men who... Her voice dropped. I need the box, Mama. The one with the deed. Let me hold it a few days. I'll put it back. Why? So they stop calling, she breathed. Quiet. People I owe. Don't be dramatic. Tasha, you're playing with folks who count money with other people's bones. A second voice slid into the call, smooth silk and Sunday school polite. Miss Carter, we're just trying to help your daughter out of a tough patch. If we can review the deed, we'll ensure nothing happens to your property. Sir, I said, church iron sliding up my spine, if you come to my porch, bring a casserole. He laughed too long. Cute, he said. We'll be in touch. When night fell, it fell hard. Around midnight, I heard tires on gravel, lights off a house early, car rolling to a stop in front of mine, quiet voices, porch light carving a slice in the dark, Tasha's silhouette. Two men, one with a folder under his arm that looked too much like paper to be food. I stood inside the door, one lock open, chain latched. Silly chain, more sincere than strong, but it gave me one more breath. Mama, Tasha said, voice rattling the screen. Open, please. What is it? Give me the box. They'll go if you give me the box. Evening, Miss Carter, Silk voice said. We just need to verify a few details. You need a warrant, I said, or pie. From the sidewalk came the shuffle of slippers and the whisper of a housecoat. Miss Eloise. Her silhouette filled the steps like a mother church. Behind her, Mr. Clarence, then pastor. With his hat in his hand, two teenage lawn boys and Miss Linda, breathless from driving above the limit and praying not to be caught. They lined my fence like a choir. We having a midnight meeting, Miss Eloise called, sugar and steel. I brought my slipper with the hard heel. Somebody getting tapped if they don't step off this porch. The men looked at the crowd, then at each other, then at Tasha, trembling, mascara bleeding into the soft of her cheeks. Silk voice tugged his cuffs. Misunderstanding, he said, but his words clicked like empty ice glasses. We'll reschedule. They backed away. Car doors, engine, gone. Tasha stayed on the top step, chain between us like a thin river. Mama, she whispered, child inside the woman. I'm sorry. I slid the chain free and opened my door. Baby, I said, heart hot and broken and beating. Come inside. Neighbors kept vigil at my fence, murmuring like a low storm. Inside, Tasha stood barefoot on my tile, toes curled like she needed to hold the house with her feet. Jaden slept on my couch, blanket to his chin, snug as a seed in a pod. You heard what the judge said, I told Tasha. No sales, no deals, no silk tongues at midnight. We go back to court. We tell the truth. And you, I swallowed, you tell it too. I'm scared. I know, I said, but scared doesn't get to drive. Her eyes landed on the red pen on my counter. She reached, like approaching a strange dog, turned it in her fingers. It writes pretty, she said, even when you don't deserve pretty. I slid it from her hand into the drawer. Tomorrow, I said, we go to your place. Why? Because my grandson is a lantern, and I'm tired of standing in the dark. She understood. Stay with me? She asked. Small as the radio lullabies I used to hum. I'll stay. The porch light clicked off. Neighbors drifted home. I laid a quilt on the sofa for Tasha, tucked another over Jaden, then sat at the table and wrote a line that made my hand shake. In the morning. Red folder. I underlined it. Put the notebook under my pillow like a child hides treasure. Prayed the old prayer, Lord, cover my child from her own worst choices. Cover me from mine. Let the truth walk in daylight. Somewhere far off, a train called low, a question asked twice. Gray slid along my ceiling. Morning was coming. It always does. Grandma? Jaden murmured. You here? I'm here, I whispered, the day already pressing its hand into my back. In my mind, I could see the bed frame, the dust ruffle, the space beneath, the red flicker of a folder. I could hear the sound it would make being dragged into the light. Morning broke with the kind of gray light that makes even strong coffee taste thin. I didn't sleep after the midnight standoff. My neighbors had stood like a choir on my fence, holding back. Men with silk voices, but I knew the fight wasn't over. When I closed my eyes, I still saw Tasha's face on my porch, smeared with tears and fear, begging for my deed. If you're still with me, please subscribe, because voices like mine only stay alive when someone listens. The emergency hearing gave us breathing room. The judge's order froze any sale, and Mr. Benton said, "They'll circle, but they can't land." I wanted to believe him. Still, every knock at the door made my pulse gallop. Tasha called that night, her words running thin. "Mama, just give me the box. I'll fix it, please." I told her no. Then another voice came on the line, smooth, too polite. "We're just trying to help your daughter through a rough patch." "Sir," I said, iron back in my spine, "if you want my box, bring a warrant or bring pie. Otherwise, don't darken my porch." He chuckled. "Cute. We'll be in touch." I hung up, but the quiet after was worse than the call. Deputy Carla James came by again. She didn't drink my late coffee this time. She walked my yard with a flashlight, noting tire tracks near the back fence. "Miss Carter," she said, "don't keep this weight alone. If your daughter drags you into something, let the truth drag her back out, but you gotta stay 3 steps ahead." "I'm tired of steps," I said. "Then let us walk with you," she answered. That night I wrote in my notebook, neighbors, deputy, pastor, red folder. I underlined it twice. The red folder wasn't hard to find. Jaden's sticky note had been a lantern, pointing me straight under Tasha's bed. The next morning, when she finally let me in her condo, eyes ringed with exhaustion, perfume masking something sour, I asked her where the spare sheets were. She waved toward her bedroom. I bent down, pulled at the dust ruffle, and there it was. Crimson plastic, bulging with papers. My hands shook as I dragged it into daylight. Inside, deeds, transfer forms, letters with my forged signature lined up like soldiers. One page stopped me cold. A quitclaim deed, dated last month, transferring all rights and interests of my home to a trust with Tasha's name scribbled at the top. The notary's stamp was real. My name was not. "Tasha," I said, my voice trembling in my chest. "What is this?" She froze in the doorway, mascara smeared. "Mama, I was gonna fix it. The deal fell through. I just need time." "Time?" I held up the page. "You gave away my roof like it was leftover pie. Who taught you to do this?" Her face crumpled, then hardened. I was tired of being the girl with nothing. Men at work talk about equity and investments like it's air. I wanted that air. I thought I could leverage what you had and pay it back before you noticed. "Mama, I never meant for it to go this far." "You didn't mean for me to notice," I said quietly, "but you meant every line of ink." She sank into a chair, hands covering her face. For the first time, she didn't look like a hustler or a liar. She looked like my child who'd wandered too far into the dark. The court date came faster than breath. Mr. Benton stacked my papers into neat piles, each clipped and numbered. He said, "Don't raise your voice. Just tell the truth. The judge will hear it." The courtroom smelled of old wood and disinfectant. Across the aisle, 2 sharp men from Home Equity Solutions Group shuffled glossy folders. Tasha wasn't with them. She sat in the back, eyes lowered, as if her chair might swallow her whole. The judge asked me directly, "Did you sign these transfers?" I lifted my chin. "No, ma'am, and if my name is there, someone wore it like a mask." Benton slid the red folder into evidence. He showed her the forged deeds, the quitclaim, the shaky notary stamp. He showed her my bank's letter, putting a hold on the suspicious transfer. The judge looked over her glasses, unimpressed with the men in suits. "This house is not vacant," she said, dry as salt. "It belongs to Miss Carter, until proven otherwise. All sales are restrained. Forensic review ordered." The gavel cracked, and just like that, the storm paused. But storms don't vanish. They circle. That night, Tasha stood on my porch again, shaking. "Mama, they won't let me go. If you don't give them something, they'll—" Her voice trailed off. "Who are they?" I asked. She flinched, eyes darting. People who don't take no kindly. The fear in her voice was real, but so was the choice she had made. A week later, the fight came to my front door. Midnight again, car lights off, footsteps soft, 2 men with Tasha between them. She clutched her purse like a lifeline. "Mama," she whispered, "just give them the deed, please." The silk-voiced one smiled through the screen. "Ms. Carter, we don't want trouble. Just a little paperwork." I stood straight. "Sir, you brought no warrant, no pie, and no respect. Step off my porch." Behind me, Jaden stirred on the couch. Before fear could drown me, I heard slippers scuffing on gravel. Miss Eloise in her robe, Clarence with his cane, Pastor Williams with his hat, 2 teenagers with pocket knives they probably weren't supposed to have, and Ms. Linda, the banker, breathless but resolute. They lined my fence like angels in cotton. "This porch is spoken for," Miss Eloise declared. "Y'all best take your slick shoes elsewhere." The men exchanged looks. Even wolves know when the sheep have teeth. They retreated, grumbling, their car coughing into the night. Tasha stayed on the step, trembling. "Mama," she whispered, "I'm sorry." I slid the chain free and opened the door. "Come inside, baby, but tomorrow we go to court and you will speak." That night, she lay on my sofa under one of my mother's quilts, staring at the ceiling. I sat at the table with my notebook open, writing the line that burned. Red folder retrieved. Tasha entangled. Neighbors stood tall. Tomorrow, truth. I underlined it. Twice. If you're still here, don't go anywhere, because the real storm hadn't even landed yet. Before I tell you how far a daughter's choices can drag a mother, click subscribe and leave a comment with your city. Stories like mine travel faster when we travel together. The night after Tasha slept on my sofa under Mama's quilt, I lay awake listening to the house breathe. Every creak of the pipes sounded like footsteps. My notebook rested under my pillow, heavy with truths written in black ink. Tomorrow wasn't just about court. Tomorrow was about whether my child would finally stand in daylight with me or drag us both deeper into shadow. Before I continue, if my story touches your heart, please subscribe so more voices like mine can be heard. The courthouse was packed for the continuation hearing. Word had spread. Half my neighbors seemed to be in the gallery. Ms. Linda sat straight as a ruler. Pastor Williams had his Bible tucked under his arm, and Deputy James leaned on the back wall, uniform crisp. I felt their eyes holding me steady. Tasha walked in late, shoulders hunched, carrying that same red folder like it weighed bricks. She wouldn't meet my eyes. When the judge called our case, Mr. Benton rose with quiet fire. He laid the forged documents on the table, showed side-by-side signatures, then presented the folder itself. The judge asked, "Ms. Carter, did you bring this forward?" "I did, ma'am," I said. "It lived under my daughter's bed, but my name was inside it." Gasps rippled. Tasha shifted, wringing her hands. The judge's gaze fell on her. "Miss Carter," she said to Tasha, "do you deny preparing or concealing these documents?" Tasha opened her mouth, closed it. Jaden, in the front row beside Eloise, whispered too loudly, "Mom, tell the truth." His little voice cracked the silence like thunder. Tasha's face broke. She whispered, "I forged them. I thought I could pay it back." The room erupted. The judge banged her gavel. "Order. This is now a criminal matter, but for today, title remains with Ms. Ruth Ann Carter. Any further attempt to transfer or encumber this property will be void." I exhaled for the first time in weeks, but the men Tasha owed weren't finished. That evening, a black SUV idled outside my fence, windows tinted. I could feel the eyes behind the glass. The car sat there long enough for dusk to crawl over the roses, then drove off. My phone buzzed. This isn't over. Pastor Williams came by with fried chicken, saying grace longer than usual. "Evil always makes a last lunge," he warned. "You stand firm. Your roots are deeper than their threats." I held on to his words. The showdown came at the fellowship hall. Our church hosted a Sunday dinner fundraiser and the whole neighborhood turned up. Folding tables groaning with macaroni, collards, peach cobbler. Children darted between chairs. The choir hummed softly in a corner. Halfway through pastor's prayer, the SUV pulled up outside. The silk-voiced man walked in, flanked by two others smiling like a deacon. "Miss Carter," he called, "we'd like a word." Every head turned. Eloise stood so fast her chair toppled. "Not here," she snapped. "Not today." The man ignored her, holding up a glossy packet. "Your daughter signed agreements that bind this property. We expect cooperation." The choir stopped humming. The room was electric. I stood, my knees steady under me. "Sir," I said, voice carrying clear, "you brought your lies into a house of truth. But lies don't live long here." I turned to Tasha. She trembled at the end of the table. "Baby, speak." Her lips quivered. Then, in a rush, they pressured me. They said if I didn't sign Mama's name, they'd hurt me. I thought I could undo it before anyone saw. The room gasped again. Pastor lifted his Bible. Deputy James stepped forward, badge gleaming. "That's enough," she said firmly. "This is harassment. Step outside, gentlemen." The silk-voiced man smirked. "You'll regret this." But when half the congregation rose to their feet, teenagers, elders, mothers in aprons, he realized he was outnumbered. He backed away, mask slipping, and stormed out. The doors slammed. Applause broke, ragged but strong. Court moved quickly after that. With Tasha's confession on record and the red folder in evidence, the judge issued permanent protection over my deed. Investigators opened fraud charges against the men. Benton assured me, "Your home is safe now, they can't touch it again." Tasha wept outside the courthouse, clutching Jaden. "Mama, I ruined everything." I held her face in my hands. "No, baby, you bent near breaking, but roots can grow back. We'll heal, but with boundaries." She nodded through tears. Healing came in pieces. We changed the locks. I opened a joint savings account with Ms. Linda guiding me, not Tasha. Pastor arranged counseling for her, and Deputy James checked in weekly. Neighbors kept bringing sweet tea and pie until my fridge groaned. One evening, Jaden curled beside me on the porch swing, fireflies winking in the dark. "Grandma," he said, "are we safe now?" I kissed his curls. "Yes, baby. Safe and wiser." He grinned, gap-toothed. "Then, can you make cornbread tomorrow?" I laughed till tears came. Always. At church the next Sunday, Pastor asked me to speak. I told them how close I came to losing everything, how forgery nearly stole my name, how my neighbors saved me. "Dignity," I said, "is telling the truth out loud, even when it shakes." The choir rose, voices swelling. Tasha stood in the front pew, eyes wet but clear, Jaden's hand in hers. She mouthed, "Thank you, Mama." And for the first time in months, I felt the peace of safety restored. This was my story. Now tell me, what part touched your heart the most?